This is section. Oh, great. That was a little late.
So
Okay. Okay. So you guys heard my little story, which was great and all of that. We're going to talk about an offer today, both writing and receiving. Okay, because I want to make sure that we get it. You know, most new agents, and you're my guinea pig because you're sitting here always, but most new agents think that their job is out there showing homes. Oh my God, I was out there showing homes. You know, remember Ernie, the crane operator? Okay. He was the best property shower that I've ever seen. You know, I mean, 2 sets of clients on a Saturday, 2 sets of clients on a Sunday, never wrote. You're right. He's the best driver I got, you know. So, but I want you to understand that the process really of moving it along, your job is to write. Okay, if there's one sentence that I want you, now I know you're going to say, wait a minute, you say to close. You're right, that's close to get paid. But if you're not writing, you're not about to cross the bridge. And that's really important. I want you to understand that. If you ain't writing, you ain't making money. Why? What's the first thing that you learned in any real estate class or real estate school? That's one of my common senses. Did you say that? Close. Nothing is done verbally in real estate. So if you're not writing, right? If you're not writing, John will tell you, if you're not writing, you're not cashing checks. Right, John? Okay. Thanks, pal. You walked by the perfect time for me. Okay. That's serious, though. If you're not writing, you're not putting yourself in the game. I don't want you to think that just because you're out there taking somebody showing homes, that you're doing it. Okay. What you're doing, if you're doing it, you're listening and you're picking up on the homes that they want. I mean, you want to be, again, here's my baseball analogy. You want to be hitting home runs. You want to be sending them properties that you hit it right on the head. So we ready to write? You know, my mother always told me never to write on the first one. Who's heard that before? Right? You never write on the first home. Why not? Why not? If it's the right home, write it because his client will. Or I got to tell you, if it's the same, you know, thoughts, you can be damn well that I'm going to write it, because if I'm going to a bar to pick up a client, okay, I'm going to be picking up that home to get them to write. So I don't want you to think for a second that you have to show them a lot of homes. The goal in real estate is to write, because if you're writing, you're engaging. Yes, showing property, you're engaging, you're building rapport with your client, you're interacting, interfacing. But the real key here, guys, and especially guys up there in Zoom land, is I want you to understand you've got to write, okay? And because if you're writing, you're making it happen. And remember, it's easy. Buyer makes an offer, right? Buyer makes an offer. What are the 3 things? Because we're getting close now to Monday. And I want somebody to be spot on when I say, what are the 3 things we need these days? Bar none, no excuses, you must include with an offer. Pre-approval, FICO score,
4.
proof of funds, POF. Okay, you guys are going to get that one right on Monday. But don't ever forget that. And even though the contract says you have 3 days to get your lender letter in or 3 days to show your proof of funds, don't do it. I want you to have that box checked, attached. Because if I'm the listing agent and you're the selling agent, and you know the difference on that, right? Listing agent represents the seller, the selling agent represents the buyer. I think they're about to change that to be called buyer's agent. I think it's in the process of change, which it should, okay? Because it used to confuse the crap out of me. But I want you to be sure, me as a listing agent, if I don't have the letter, the FICO, and the proof of funds, I move it to the back of the bus, especially when I'm in multiples, because that means either the buyer or the buyer's agent weren't motivated to send me the package. And when you guys are looking in the MLS these days, you will see most of them say one attachment only. Don't send me an offer where it's 16 attachments. Because I'm not, if I start opening them with my attention span, I'm bored. It's the same way like when I send my package of seller disclosures and it's 50 pages, and then for some reason they send it back broken down and there's 18 attachments. I normally send back and go, please resend as one attachment. I just, it's a waste of time. Make the job easy for the other side. That's why, the other thing is, and I'm jumping ahead before we actually get into this, the offer today. When you send in your offer in an email, because we don't present in person, especially now with COVID. Okay, but I got to tell you, in the old days, presenting in person was showtime. I got to use a lot of my old publishing skills where, you're presenting you're right across with the listing agent and the seller. And sometimes your buyer was there. Okay, if your buyer could shut their mouth. Okay, that was fun. Now you're just sending an email. And a lot of times, please see our offer for, 4531 Tahunga Avenue. And that's it. For me, I'm bragging. Here's our great offer, clean, neat, tight, from our very well qualified, highly motivated, and extremely excited buyers. They've been looking for a while, blah, blah, blah. And I just go off for a few sentences. And then I end it with, I promise to make this the most stress-free, easiest deal you've had all year. Because now I'm lumping it on to me that I'm confident that I'm his man or her man to get the deal done. So first you talk about your client, then you talk about you. So remember, so your buyer makes offer, seller responds. Seller's got 3 ways to go, right? They can, the worst one, they can reject. And that's happening a lot lately, by the way, where you don't get a response. Especially, if there's 8, 9, 10 offers on a house, they're just not responding. They're going to say, well, we're going to pick the top 3 to respond to, and the others are just not going to happen. And normally then when I hear that, I beg and plead to at least get me in the game. I said, I don't know if we're going to get to the highest number. I said, but I can guarantee you one thing, we will close. No games, no retrading, we will close. I was pretty confident on my part. But if you're the listing agent, isn't that what you want to hear? Right? Don't you want to hear that? Yes, sir. You got to back that up. It's got to be airtight. Right? Otherwise, what your clients want. Is that the point where you don't write offers unless you know it's in? Yep. Okay, so 2 things. Okay. I live by the double D syndrome. When in doubt, don't. And if my client has any doubt that they don't want that house or they're not 100% in it, don't kill a tree. Don't waste your time, the seller's time, or my time. Because, I end my email, I'm in it to win it. My reputation is I close. Okay, I can count over the last 15 years on one hand how many deals I've canceled when I'm representing someone, especially if it's a buyer. That's nothing. I don't waste time. And I don't want to waste your time, your time, your time, or your time. So yeah, to answer your question, you better damn well know your client. And you have to have that conversation. And I'll tell you why. You have to have an undertone that, you're in it for them, but you also have a reputation that you have to hold on to. And if you're known in this business as a game player, you're not going to go very far. Okay. And like I've said, there are some agents that don't like me. I don't care. I'm not interviewing for friends at this point in my life, but I am interviewing for respect. And I know that I can get the job done, get it done right, and get it done per the contract. And I expect nothing less when I'm on the other side. When you go into escrow, you got to remember it's a binding legal document. So to answer your question, you better damn well know your client and make sure your client's in it to win it. Okay, because, and I think I've said this as a listing agent, when I get multiples, I don't necessarily take the highest offer. I think I've told you guys that, right? But what I will do is if it's close and if it's an agent that I've worked with and I know he'll close and do the deal, I'll convince my client to take that offer. And sometimes it could be 5, 10 grand less than the top offer. But I will tell my client, my principal, this one will close. There are certain agents out there that they get you into escrow and then they start playing games. And games being renegotiating, extending, holding, thinking that I'll take you all the way to the close and then ask for a price reduction or a credit. I don't want to work with those kind of agents, okay? So the second one is you're going to get a counter. And the counter really starts the negotiation, right? And then the third way is the acceptance. Okay? Those are your 3 options on it. Now, when you're getting ready to represent the buyer, you want to know that paperwork inside and out. Don't leave anything blank if it has a line that needs to be filled in. Fill in the other agent's information. You look like the pro. Okay, if it means you got to go on the DRE website and find out their number or their office address, do it. Put in their phone number and their email address. I want you to be able to stand above the other agents when you're presenting, because first impression's everything. God, this offer was written cleanly and correctly. Nothing's worse than when an agent butchers an offer. And you have to try and, so exactly, you've got to call the other agent to get an answer out of them. That sucks. Okay, because what you're doing is, first thing is you're going to prepare. Okay. So when you're going to prepare, what are some of the things you're going to be thinking of? This is if you're representing the buyer. Yeah, let me get a piece of paper. Yep, if you're representing the buyer. Okay. Just, what do you need when you're preparing your offer? Talk to me. You're onto something.
The buyer's information, pre-approval letter,
Okay.
package, FICO scores, and proof of funds.
Okay, hold on, because I think we're onto something here a little deeper.
They chose, you've already given them the option of your preferred lender.
Right.
So they're chosen their lender.
Mm-hmm.
Gone through.
Okay. No closing costs yet because you don't know where you're going to end up yet, and you're not sure what escrow company you're using. Back up for a second because I thought you were going to hit on it. Don't you want to tell the lender you're writing? Give them a heads up.
They have
who's writing, you've already spoken to him because you gave me the pre-approval letter, right? Always remember this, and if there's a lender on the line, too bad. A lender will tell you exactly what they think you want to hear to get that potential buyer with them with a letter. They will tell you they are the easiest deal. It's going to be a can of corn, to use an old expression. It's going to be smooth. The moment you tell them they're writing or that you're in the deal, they're going to make up every excuse that it's not going to all of a sudden be so smooth. You know, Christmas is coming up. We just had the Jewish New Year's. They'll be coming up again next year. It's not going to be easy. Their turkey neck's going wild. You know, that all of a sudden, it's just going to be a tough one. You know, I'm going to really have to work to me. You said it was the easiest loan you were going to do. Why? Because now the onus shifts from you to them. And to be honest with you, you're helpless. I'm helpless. Because now all of a sudden we're relying on someone else. This is where I thought you were going. We're relying on somebody else to deliver the mail. We don't do the loan. The lender does. And the lender, who's the busiest person in the world, you can see how I feel about lenders, but I love them because they make our deal. But they're the busiest person. You know, I've got 20 files. Well, then why'd you take this one? Okay, I want you to remember that. You're going to have to stay on that lender every step of the way. So as you're getting ready, not only did you get your lender letter, you've put in the call and said, we're making an offer. And I'm writing it. So I'm putting you on alert. Yes.
So if they start, like, at what point do you
You know what, Matthew, I've changed lenders pretty far into some deals if the lender doesn't perform, or if I lose patience or confidence. If they start making up too many excuses, you got to know to shift. But remember, you've got contingency dates that the other side is going to hold you to. So don't forget that. Okay. All right. What else do we need when we're preparing? You want to make sure the buyer's in it. You want to make sure that their head is really, really in it and that that's the one they want. And for me, so many years later, I don't need practice writing an offer. And I tell my clients that. I know it's arrogant, but I do tell them that. Okay. So when you start writing the offer, what guidelines do you need? You want to be thorough. So the first thing is know the RPA. Residential Purchase Agreement. And I believe Demetra will be doing it next month. And I think she does it in 2 classes. It would behoove you not to attend that class or Zoom. Yeah. But it is so important that you know it, because also your clients are going to be looking for guidance from you. So I need you to make sure that you're doing it. Okay? What else do we need to do? Be thorough. Complete it. What else? Be ready to explain it. You're not going to be able to rely on your training director years and years later. It's really up to you to learn the paperwork. Okay, those that work in my group know I'm a stickler for it. And just so you know, 20 some odd years later, I still don't use a TC. I do all of my files myself. And when I have a development going, that could be as many as 20 or 30 transactions at one time. Yeah, but here's the thing. God forbid if something happens, Monica, our office transaction coordinator, doesn't go to court or mediation or arbitration. I do, because my name is on the contract and the paperwork. So that's why I want to make sure that I'm on it. Okay, keep going. What else? When we're writing an offer. Anyone?
Make sure your lender and your vendors can meet the turn times that you've put into the contract.
Correct. You want to expand on that a little bit for a second or two?
Well, like if you say I want 10-day physical inspection period, make sure you have your inspectors lined up that they can actually do that. All your contractors, plumbers, whatever you're going to inspect for can actually meet that turn time. And if you say I can do it in a 30-day, close of escrow, make sure your lender can actually close in 30 days and do the
Right.
appraisal in the whole nine.
Thank you. That was spot on. That was excellent, actually. Good job. Have you done a deal yet?
Yes,
How many deals have you done, Chris?
quite a few actually.
Okay, so my question to you is, if you don't mind me, just if we have a little banter here, what do you find to be your biggest challenge when you're going through that? And by that, I mean challenges of, who's going to give you potentially the biggest problem?
Right now is your turn times. Like I advise my clients, like, don't waive your physical inspections, so it's making sure that your vendors can hit that turn time, especially your physical contingency, making
Right.
sure you can, inspect it, do secondaries if needed, and negotiate in the time.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's good. That's good feedback. Okay. So we're moving along and you're writing the offer. How do you determine the loan contingency period? Speak to the lender. Don't make that decision yourself. But in this competitive market, what are some of the things that the listing agent's going to be looking for? Shorter contingencies or contingencies that are waived. So if you're just going to go in with the contingency periods per the paperwork as is, you're going to have a problem. I'm telling you that right now. You got to tighten up if you're going to have a loan contingency, which coincides with the appraisal, and then you also have your due diligence period. Okay. Well, not for the due diligence, like inspections, that's you. Okay. But the lender, you have to be able to say how quickly you're going to be able to do this. And that's where they start off saying, oh, I can do it in 12 days. And then when the 12th day, I need more time. It happened to you? What happened? Hold it. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I had to get an extension with the seller
Why?
because the lender wasn't able to fill the loan in the time that she told me she was going to. It was only a couple days, but still, I just wanted to avoid that from the beginning. But luckily, it went through.
And what, just out of curiosity, what was the excuse?
I don't know. It really wasn't a good excuse, honestly. It just wasn't done.
Okay, how'd you get around it?
Got the extension and kind of finessed my way to easing both sides of the transaction, and then it came through.
Okay. And you got it done?
Yeah.
Okay.
So are these like things that you ask or state ahead
Sorry.
of? No. So my question is, are these things that you state ahead of time? Like, I need this by this time, I need this, like, is there a checklist to make sure that you get all the information that you need?
What do you mean?
I think because it's, make sure you follow up with the lender. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I wouldn't even have known that. Like, is that something you say, I need it by this time, and then you just follow up with them and be like, why?
Yeah, what you're going to be doing essentially is just telling the lender, hey, look, it's a multiple offers, so we have to be aggressive.
Mhm.
We have to be aggressive. We need shorter times. Can you do this? And oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then all of a sudden, they're not getting me the information. Well, why didn't you call me? So you and the lender almost become attached at the hip. It's one of those kind of things. Okay. So you're going to write that offer. You're going to create it going. Then you can talk about your checklist. No, you want to here. Then you can talk about your checklist. What is this on a battery?
So structured, I think.
You know what? I like that. I like that. I'm a list person. I'm constantly scribbling, constantly, even things that I know I will do. And there are some times when I will walk in the morning and do a to-do list, and I can have 12 items on it, but maybe I only get 7 done. But the next morning, the ones that I didn't do aren't necessarily the top 5, but I'm going to try to do my best to get them done. I want you to be organized. Okay. So when you start to look, okay, I want you to take the next 2 to 3 minutes and tell me what you're thinking are going to be the important delta points that you're going to think you're going to be focusing on when you're writing an offer. You guys all hear me out there? 2 to 3 points that you think are going to be really important when you're writing the offer. Okay, because then I'm going to ask you why. So there's no wrong answers in Ignite. What I'm trying to find out is what you think at this point are going to be really important when you're writing the offer. Okay, and I'll give the first one because everyone got price. But then what do you think some other key moments are going to be?
Terms.
Well, take 2 to 3 minutes and then we'll get everyone together. Two or three points that you feel are going to be important when you're writing the offer that you're going to focus on, that you think will help you win the deal. Okay? Take a couple of minutes. Goes there. This is when it gets fun, by the way. Take another minute and then we'll take a shot at this. Class, like about 11:30. Does that work for you? Okay. So I got some really cool ideas, including the first lead. Yeah. Okey doke. So I'll start with the 4 here. What are you thinking?
I said prompt replies and constantly back channeling. So they have some information.
Give me a for instance.
Say there is an issue with like the lender or something like that.
Okay.
And I guess that's the same goes.
Expand on that a little bit, because I'm not sure I totally get that yet.
Well, I don't know what I'm.
Yes, you do. You know what? You're saying that, but you do, believe it or not. You're right on the edge. I want you to,
Okay, so say, I guess, say there's,
thank you. That's what I wanted you to get was specific.
know, like, that, the minute you get that information. That's set their expectations. Same goes for the listing agent as well.
Can I write something that you just said? Expectations, right? And you hit one of the big ones and didn't realize it. You did. I got you to say it. Sense of urgency. I got you to say it indirectly. When you said that you want your clients to know right away if something comes down, the clock is ticking. And by the way, when you do, and you will, when you go into escrow, it's not Monday to Friday. You know that, right? It's calendar days. So Saturdays and Sundays, even though they're not banking days, and that's also, by the way, where the lender uses an excuse. Okay. So you got to have a sense of urgency. Awesome. That was great.
I said, it's timeframes, and I don't know. It's the order of steps. I would want there to be a clear communication of the order of steps so that the client.
Wait, are you a note taker also? I forgot when we were talking. Are you kind of?
The note taker.
Yeah. Or are you going to turn around and say, so Sarah, okay, so this is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to be up against. Okay, that's what I kind of thought. No, I'm pointing at you. Yeah, of course. You. Communication, good one.
Especially with push your buyer, but also seeing, identifying exactly someone's looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Type offer, meaning that, usually they ask for it to be all one document.
Falls in right in line with what Matthew was just talking about. You gotta be organized. Don't do it half-ass. Do you know why? It's a reflection on you, which becomes a reflection on your client. And indirectly, what I'm saying is, if the buyer picked you, what the hell were they thinking? If you send in sloppy paperwork or you're not doing it right, what were you thinking? And I know it's not a fair statement all the time, but it's true. Okay. Well, you guys are batting 1,000.
A lot of the same. I think it's.
Oh,
also,
sure. A
you
lot
know,
of the
it's
sin.
true,
Okay.
communication, but internalizing the information myself to be able to explain to someone, because when I bought my condo, I trusted my agents. I didn't really ask that many questions, to be honest. I was like, okay, sign this. You know what I'm looking for. I kind of just went with the flow. It worked out, obviously, but like, I feel like what my goal is for an agent, as an agent, is to explain everything.
Okay. So that's what you mean by internalizing.
Yeah.
Let me also tell you what's really cool, at least for me, because I do have an ego. Okay. Nothing is cooler than when you're explaining the paperwork to your client and you know your shit. Because they inevitably say, thank God I have you. Or, so okay, now we're going to go back to the bar. So how was your agent? Oh my God, he was amazing. Or she was amazing. Well, what do you mean? She walked me through everything. She told me what to expect. She told me potential hiccups. And at the end of the day, she delivered. Who was that? Oh, it was Sarah such and such. Do you have her number still? Referral. You don't get referrals when you're not, if they don't think you did the right job. Okay. And again, and I say this, I want you to be respected before you're loved. And respect has to be earned. Okay. I don't want you to be the scattered type. I want you to turn into it. So you know, when we start looking, anyone else out there? Oh, what happened here? Anyone else out there with the 2 or 3 things? Want to take a shot? Abraham?
Yeah,
Yes.
large EMD.
Okay,
You can hear me? Okay.
I can now.
Yeah, large earnest money deposit.
Okay. Most the earnest money deposit is standard. It's 3% of the purchase price. Okay, 3%. Who else?
I have something.
Okay,
Ask the listing agent what's important to the seller for as a time frame or what's their motivation? And how much activity has been on the property for showings? And
and what's the easiest question then, Demetrius? Do you have any offers?
yes, do you have any offers? Correct.
So you just opened up a can of worms, didn't you, for this group? And I thank you for it, okay? But you opened up a can of worms because now you're no longer just focused on your client. You're no longer just focused on the lender. You're now focused on the other agent and making sure that that agent is impressed enough to want to work with you.
Correct.
So she's developed dialogue saying, how can I make this easier for you? That's essentially what she did. Tell me what makes my offer cleaner, easier, and more acceptable. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, Sharon, the first time we're seeing you live and not with just a picture. Do you want to jump in? Sharon, do you want to jump in here? You're muted. No? Okay, anyone else wants to jump in before we move on? So you're going to get objections from the other side. But Miss Haynes just started getting around it, didn't she? She cut through the chase. How do we get through the objections so that you're not going to get a massive counteroffer? Exactly. Now, unfortunately, you're going to get the agent that says, well, I can't tell you that. I'm not the seller. That's when you just take a deep breath. And you're going to find agents that are going to say that. I'm the type of agent that I'll call and I'll follow up on what Dimitri said and just say, how many offers do you have? Where are you at? And then I ask a really dumb question. What do you think it'll take?
Can I
can't
say
tell you.
something, Peter?
Sure.
That's
Absolutely.
that's how I normally start off. Those are my first questions I ask because I want to win. I want to get my deal today.
Yep. See, and I didn't even slip you a cheat sheet on that one, did I? And I picked up on it.
No.
Okay, thank you. But you do start the dialogue, build him rapport. Make that other agent say, shit, this is an agent I want to work with. He's a deal maker, not a deal breaker. The deal breaker is the guy who does the offer half-ass and doesn't really do it right. So that's when you're representing the buyer. So let's just flip for a couple of minutes. What happens when you're representing the seller? What happens when you're representing the seller? You're getting them. You're not writing them. You know, now it comes back to, you know what your seller wants. And it always starts off with price. But then your seller wants to get out of it with the least amount of exposure. And as I like to say, the least amount of damage. Like that they're going to do 1,000,001 inspections, or they're, you know, that they're leaving 21 days for the loan and 17 days for the due diligence, because that's what it is in the contract until you start putting in your own numbers. Okay, a lot of sellers, I'm selling it as is. Great, we're still going to do our inspections. You know, no credits, no fixing, no nothing. You're seeing a lot of that right now. Okay, so we get where that's coming from. But it's up to you to know the paperwork so you can point out what the seller needs to see. Because sometimes what happens if you're reading it and then you don't see on it, seller to credit buyer, $15,000 towards closing costs. And you don't tell your seller that. And the seller accepts the offer and it's in there. Well, it's either going to come out of your commission or the seller is going to say, I'm not doing it. Well, then what do you do? Because the buyer thinks they have a deal. Or the seller says, I'll eat it or we'll split it. Okay, but remember the seller in their mind, I need to net or I need to gross such and such. So it's up to you to make sure that when you're representing the seller, now you're doing a reverse checklist. You want to make sure everything is filled in. You want to make sure that the EMD is 3%. You want to make sure that the loan information is correct. You probably want to talk to their lender. How confident are you of doing this loan? You wrote this that you could do it in 12 days. That means in 12 days from acceptance, we're going to expect to remove the appraisal and loan contingency. Easy, no problem, no problem. 6 days into it, he's going to ask for a week extension. I'm telling you, it happens. Okay, it happens more often than not. And you're the one who's going to get boxed into it. But you've got to be down there because now you're reverse presenting to the seller. And you're going item by item so they fully understand it. And you have to explain that. Are you, Mr. Seller, prepared to be out in 24 days? Because that's when they say they're going to close. Well, I'm just closing on my new house in 30 days. So I'm going to need the money, maybe I can get a rent back or live here for free for 6 days after it closes. So you've got to make sure that you're doing the presentation, and you have to make sure when you do it that what you're doing is you have to make sure that no matter which principal you are representing, that you have been thorough with them. Please, whatever you do, don't do what some agents do and say, well, I skimmed through it. Or I sent it to them for them to do. He's a smart guy, he can read it. Okay, they'll blame you if they misinterpret something. I'm telling you right now, they will. Okay, questions? From what I'm saying, what does it seem more difficult, representing the buyer or the seller at this point?
I like
Why?
the seller.
Okay. Mhm. Okay. Okay. And if you're representing the seller, you got to make sure that you give them the good, the bad, and the ugly in the offer. And then you have the other second part, and that's helping them complete the seller disclosures, which is about 50 pages. You cannot complete them yourself. You are not the principal or the seller. You can guide them and read them through it, but they're the ones who have to complete it and fill it out. And we'll get to that, okay? Any questions on what we went over today on making and receiving offers? Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. No. Mm-mm. I want to keep it easy, keep it smooth, and not overwhelm the other side. They know it's there. They know the forms that are, because everything is populated that has to happen with the offer. So sometimes I do that. Yeah, sometimes I spell it out. You can do that if you want. Absolutely. Yeah, I do that on occasion. Sometimes I change it up, depends. Good one. Anyone else? What?
Quick question, Peter.
Yes,
Where
Hold
can
on.
we get a copy of the RBA?
the RPA is
Yeah,
in your,
sorry.
is go to card.org. Go to the transaction section and pull up the residential purchase agreement. It's the second one at the top, right after the residential listing agreement.
Got it. Okay.
Right. Yep. Yeah. They define each section and move each section along. Yeah, but to start off, Andre, you can go to the card.org to transaction and then forms, and then pull up residential purchase agreement. Okay.
Got it. Thank
And if you have a problem with that, reach out to me and I'll send you one.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, man. Good. Right. Or Demetra's video on YouTube is excellent. She does it in 2 classes, right? She breaks it up. Yep. Good. Good. All right. So we're now 9 sessions through. I'm keeping score. That's why I took a little time today too, to see who was here and who's not. Friday is section number 10, which is getting it and then how to work through it. And then Monday is the actual transaction. And then Wednesday, we'll finish up with a little of my tidbits on going above and beyond and what you do after the deal is done. Okay. So you guys were really good today. I appreciate it. And I'll see everyone back here on Friday at 11 o'clock. All right. Have a good
Thanks,
couple of days,
Peter.
everyone.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.